Hello, welcome to Real WW Talk. I'm Rikki.
And I'm Candice.
We're backwards on you today because Erin is not here today. She shared on her Facebook profile that she is celebrating with her coworkers. Their radio station is being rebranded. So they're all celebrating tonight. So congrats to them.
So excited for her. It's been like she had this super secret stuff going on and we didn't know anything about it. And she was all over the place. And now it all makes sense. But we miss her tonight, but we're wishing her well. Hope she's getting a lot of celebration in, well deserved.
Yes, definitely. Lots of hard work behind all that.
Yeah.
All right. So should we jump right in? Who's first? Are you going to go first this week?
Sure. Well, I am getting myself ready for my chemotherapy to start. So I've been going through a lot of appointments and getting everything together. Again, I just have to say thank you to everybody who has reached out with support, love, well wishes. It's been, April was just like a whirlwind. I'm usually one who loves a new month, but this month means a lot of changes for me. So I have to admit, I was a little nervous to go into May, but here we are. So I'm going to be getting my port put in tomorrow, and I'm going to name her Portia. I think I told you that. Like, I have to find something fun in this. So I go for that appointment. But I did go to weigh in on Saturday. I was down 5.8, which was a lot. I was really proud of that because, again, it was a lot of hard work. I have been doing my Enduring Your Power Zones and doing all of that. And the group, my Saturday 7:30 Columbia group, gave me a beautiful necklace that I'm wearing that says faith over fear. That I'm going to wear all throughout treatment. So that was very, very touching for them to kind of take the time to kind of pray with me and to wish me well. But the weight that's coming off is so helpful because not only as I start chemo, but when I then go into surgery, one of the things that I do understand is that the more weight that I have off, the better my outcomes are for surgery. So like I told you, having this added incentive to make choices that I'm proud of and to increase my fruits and veggies and stuff, it's paying off. So I feel really good. Really good.
I mean, your hard work is just so inspiring and just showing what real dedication and hard work and really, I mean, kind of being forced to focus so much on your why, but seeing what that can do in a short amount of time is inspiring. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Thank you. How about you? How was your week?
Well, I didn't weigh in this weekend. I did a staycation with some girlfriends and went kind of out of town and just really had a good time and relaxed and enjoyed the nice weather on Saturday and walked around Old Town Alexandria on Sunday. So I had a good weekend and I'm ready to get back. I started the week off with a workout today, so I'm happy to just get back into things, especially now that the weather is nice. It's going to be Teacher Appreciation Week this week, and I already saw the email that there's going to be donuts and treats. So I need to prepare myself for that. But otherwise, I'm ready to just continue with the consistency that I've been trying to start back with the working out.
Well, it's always nice. I was really glad to hear that you took time to kind of like go out with your friends and hang out. Even though staycations can be a lot of fun, you don't always have to go somewhere, but to take that time to kind of celebrate and do that, I think that is really good. And then to also say, okay, well, now I'm going to reset when I get back and starting the week off strong with a workout. That always puts me in a good mood. Like something about moving your body and the weather being so nice, like it makes it a lot easier to get out as opposed to if it were like the dead of winter. Where I know you hate being cold, so you weren't going to go out for a walk.
And it was funny. It rained on Sunday when we were in Old Town, but I still got like 7,000 steps, which is for the weekend is good for me. So I was happy with that. Like the idea of walking when you're on vacation is just so different than, just the daily, chore or like the workout of walking. So that was a perk too.
Good, good. Well,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm excited for the whatever, we're not even going to call it like a regrouping, but like just the
Mhm.
starting off strong, because
Yes.
sometimes it's just starting. That's what we talked about last week. It doesn't take
Mhm.
much. You just get started.
Yeah. And,
Mhm.
so just thinking about different parts of our journey and how we set goals for ourselves, I wanted to just talk today about setting your goal weight and how that can change over time. I know I personally don't have a specific goal weight set, but it's interesting thinking back on times when I've lost weight in the past, how my idea of a certain weight was different when I got there. I looked different. I looked healthy at a certain weight, even though I thought I wanted to be lower. Like, have you had any thought about that? Like setting a goal weight and how your expectations might change as you get closer to that weight?
Yeah. And I think that WW, well, back when it was definitely Weight Watchers, I don't even remember
Mhm.
their books. You always, when you lost like, I think 10%, you had
Mhm.
to go to your leader and to
Yeah.
set your goal weight. And I always made the same goal weight that I never have seen ever in my adult life. I was like, I want to be 150 pounds.
Mhm.
And I don't know what that ever looks like. I don't know what that looks like on me. I don't
Mhm.
recall a time that I've seen it, maybe when I was 13,
Mhm.
14, maybe. But that's what WW or Weight Watchers said I should be for my height. And
Mhm.
who am I to tell them differently? I always tied it to that's how I got to be free, because you have to
Mhm.
be at their weight. Whatever's the highest weight that I could be to be free is what I wanted
Mhm.
to be. But I've
Interesting.
also gone through, as I've lost significant weight at different periods of time, like when I lost my first 50 pounds, I was really proud of how my body was looking, even
Mhm.
with the 50. And I wasn't closer to the 150 that I needed to be, but
Mhm.
I was fitting into my clothes and having confidence. So it made me rethink, where is it that I need to be in order to feel comfortable? Because there's the WW requirement to be free, but then there's
Mhm.
where I feel I can maintain.
Yeah.
And that's always been kind of not the same,
Mhm.
or I haven't given myself a chance to get close enough. What
Yeah.
about you?
Well, so I think about what you said. I think you and I are probably pretty close in height.
Mhm,
And when I've always looked at that range, I've wanted to be closer to the middle or bottom
mhm,
of that range. I think something about the 120s or the 130s has always been like something I've strived for. But when I think about the first time I lost weight, and even though I'm 5'4", I was in the 180s. When I first lost my a significant amount of weight with Weight Watchers. And you could see the bones in my collar poking
mhm,
out. My waist was smaller. I've always carried more weight in my legs and my hips, but I was fit. I was a lot more fit. I don't think that would have been where I would have stayed. I was trying to lose more weight, and then I left Weight Watchers for a while and ended up coming back. But um, it it looked different than what I expected. For me, 180 probably looked different than 180 when someone else. I didn't look unhealthy in a
mhm,
overweight way, even though I was still technically 30, 40, even 50 pounds overweight by the standards of, the height expectations. So I
mhm.
think it's a little ridiculous when you think about that. Like, especially, I like how you brought up maintenance. If I am striving to get to the lower point of my, expected weight scale, can I maintain that? And is it unrealistic?
Yeah. And I think that I used to all and I inappropriately used to judge, I think, people
Mhm.
who I heard would say, because you always heard, well, if you get a doctor's note, that your number can be higher than what WW
Mhm.
tells you. And I was like, well, that's such a cop out. That's such a cop out. Why can't you just get to the 150 or
Mhm.
for whatever it is for your weight? Because
Right.
you should be able to maintain there, even though I never got there.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. And I think that it's still the societal pressure
Mhm.
of what, like when you said, I want to be in the 120s, 130s,
Mhm.
wondering, is that because it's obviously what you said, I'm thinking is that it's not based on you having been there and being like, this was me at my best.
No.
It's your understanding in this culture of what that should look like or what that
Mhm.
means. And that's what is hard, because when I always bring up Serena Williams
Mhm.
when I think of this example, and the fact that I think at one point they said that she was like 180
Mhm.
and I mean, she's solid muscle. Like she is
Yeah.
just, there's zero body fat on her.
Mhm.
And to tell her that she needed to lose weight seems laughable when
Mhm.
she's like at the time, like the number one tennis player in the world.
Mhm.
But she wouldn't have fit in the parameters of like WW in terms of what you get to be lifetime. And
Mhm.
where's that flexibility? Because you can hit that number, but as I said, if it's not sustainable or you actually look sick or you're not doing your body justice,
Mhm.
what are you doing it for? You know?
Exactly.
And I think that that's the hard part, is trying to reconcile between societal or cultural pressure that's based on a number that has nothing to do really with health.
Mhm.
And so, because that goes back to the BMI. That's another
Yes.
thing too,
Yes.
because the BMI, I don't know all the history about it, but I know this. I've heard people rip it apart,
Mhm.
and the fact that it's antiquated and old and not really based on true health and a true measure of health.
Mhm.
But yet it's the first thing that the doctors calculate when you go to the doctor's office and having your
Mhm.
chart to tell you if you're healthy or not.
Yeah. I know over the years I've seen images of people at a certain weight, like, and they all weigh the same,
Mhm.
but they're different heights and different sizes and different health levels or activity levels. And I think it goes back to reinforce what we've talked about before. What does that number mean? Like
Mhm.
it means one thing for one person, it means something else for another person. Why is it so important? I think you're right. I think for me, it has been an idea of, maybe something that hasn't been explicitly said by society or by magazines or by clothing stores. But I remember a certain brand growing up, everyone was wearing their jeans, and I just wanted to fit into their jeans. And I think part of the reason why I did gain some of the weight back, or a lot of the weight back, is because when I got down to like a size 12, I didn't fit into a size 12 everywhere I went. And there were certain stores that didn't carry a size 12. So I was always considered plus size. Looking back, I'm like, I don't think I was plus size, but I looked in the mirror, I looked at what I could fit into, I looked at what other people were wearing, and I just saw that I still couldn't fit those
Mhm.
standards. And I think things have changed a lot. That store that I'm thinking of now sells plus size clothing, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I am not going in your store. You didn't pay allow me in your store
Not
before. I
now.
am not giving you my money now. But
Yeah.
it's come a long way, but it's still um it reinforces for me the idea that health should be more important than what we can fit into. And
Mhm.
I don't know what you think about that, but I do appreciate that clothing stores are now kind of jumping on board with like, let's have clothes for people of all sizes.
Mhm. Yeah, because I mean, to that point, it's always felt like I always felt like there was an on top of already being overweight, but the deep amount of shame that you have when you do go
Mhm.
clothes shopping, and
Yeah.
there's only certain clothes and they're hideous and
Mhm.
they're in the back, like or in this room
Yeah.
and they're all like stripes this way and like just
Mhm.
hang. And you're like, well, you are letting me know what you think of me. Whereas my
Mhm.
friends who are the right size, they get to have the cute, super fun things that, you know, are in the bags
Mhm.
that aren't limited. Because if you ever have you go to the big girl store and you try to hide the label so that people don't know that like that's where you went.
Uh-huh.
You're like, oh, I'm just gonna put this in this New York and Company bag where I just bought
Mhm.
some bracelets because that's all that fit me there. But
Yeah.
yeah, to your point, I think that it makes me think also about what we'll do to try to make that the fact that they have
Mhm.
accommodated us now, but what did
Mhm.
we used to do in the past to try to make that work for us? And
Mhm.
that I had a question for you about. One of the
Mhm.
things we brought up is strength training
Yeah.
and how just the thought, even if it changed our body composition, like you said, where you carry your weight. Like I tend to carry mine in my belly and other places. But if you were to hear that strength training would
Mhm.
make you gain weight, but actually be leaner,
Mhm.
would you still want to do it? And for
Yeah.
me, my answer was no. Absolutely not. Even if I was going to be leaner, the fact that the scale could go up is what caused me to not want to strength train.
Yeah.
And that still bothers me. That number can have that much power.
It's crazy. I think I would have said the same thing maybe 10, 15 years ago. I probably would have been like, nope, I'm not going to do that, you know. And I think the difference with that too is a lot of times we still think that strength training equals bodybuilder, like a female bodybuilder. Not that there's anything wrong with that physique, but for me, like that's not the look that I would want to have. Like I'd like to be strong, but I don't need my muscles popping out, anything. But there's somewhere in between that. And I think we forget that strength and muscles don't have to look over the top, and that they really help us so much.
Yeah. But see, I think my issue wasn't about the muscles as so much, but more so about the number. Like it was just having to think of, I don't know, let's just throw out a number, 170 versus 150. If that's an 20-pound difference, but like, let's say that the difference is in the structure of my body because I'm working out and I'm strength training. Would I be willing to give up the fact that I could say I'm 150 pounds and therefore I'm free with WW and my doctor's happy,
right?
Versus 170, but I'm Serena Williams. I'm strong, and it's not the excessively strong. It's the I'm just chiseled. And I see a lot of women, especially who, because of that pressure with the number we're talking about, who are willing to give up parts of their health that are important, that strength training, that mobility, that flexibility for a number that really doesn't mean anything. It does. Like, I don't want to minimize that for health reasons. There are certain things that they have to measure, but does it mean what it says it means if it means that you won't do those healthy measures? I guess is what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So thinking about that now, would you, after your growth and reflection, would you now change your goal weight if you got to a point where you were down a certain amount and you were maybe 20 pounds away from what you originally thought you wanted your goal to be? Would you get that doctor's note to change it, or would you keep fighting?
You know, I think that now, because my focus is so changed to health, if it were shown to me that it was to my benefit health-wise to be a certain number and that it actually could be to my detriment to be lower, I think I would definitely do it. I think that I still struggle, though, that if there were no reason that, only thing that I think would make me not want to go lower is if someone looked at me and said, you look sick. Like, 'cause sometimes people get really, really low and they start to look unwell. And so if someone was like, yeah, your body is just not the type. You're not a 120 body person in terms of how you look unwell. Then maybe that would kind of do it for me. But I think I still am holding on to this number that if anytime anyone has ever asked me how much I want to weigh, I always say 150 pounds. Always, since I was in high school. Wow. It's always been the number that meant like, you're okay. And I can't figure out, I haven't been able to yet not make that my goal in any place. Like, to say that it'd be any higher than that just seems wrong. What about you?
I don't know. I think it's been so long since I've been even close to a number like 150 that I think I would settle for something different. But I say that now, I don't know once I got there if I would keep trying, or if I would, because I think I go back to what's maintainable. Like, if I can maintain something that's 20 pounds higher than what I originally thought, and I look healthy and I feel healthy and I am healthy, I think I would change it and stick to that, because I know I've heard from so many people within our Columbia group and within the Facebook group how challenging maintenance can be. And I want to get to a point where I'm at a place where I can sustain that without feeling like I'm just constantly struggling.
Do you find that while we're on this journey, because it's marathon, not a sprint. You know,
Mhm.
do you find that making those incremental goals is helpful for you? So instead of the long, because you and I both said it, like, when have I ever seen 150? It just seems so far
Mhm.
away. But like when someone says that 10 pounds or that 20 pounds, and they say, well, my
Mhm.
goal is this number, but
Mhm.
it's like literally only 10 pounds away. Do you find something like that to make those small goals motivating, or is it
Mhm.
more that you prefer to look at the bigger picture?
I think our shift lately to focus on habits has been more helpful than anything else. It's
Mhm.
still very slow for me, and it's been a process. I know our friend used to call it the crock pot versus a microwave
Mhm.
with weight loss. But I think whenever I focus on a number, regardless on what it is, I have had a lot of challenges with if I see any deviation from that in the wrong direction going up, I think I just kind of have this mentality of giving up
Mm.
and or just saying I'll start over. That like perfection piece. I think I'm realizing more and more as we do these talks that I am more of a perfectionist in some ways to my detriment. That if I don't do something exactly the way I want to do it or when I want to do it, and a lot of times it's an unrealistic timeline, um, whether it's a smaller weight goal or a larger weight goal, I do think I kind of throw in the towel and say I'm going to start over again on Monday or whatever it is. So I think the habits have been better for me personally rather than focusing on, you know, a specific weight or a specific number. But in general, in the past, I think the shorter timelines or the shorter, smaller weight goals have been more successful than the big one saying, okay, I got 100 pounds to go. Here we go.
Mhm.
I think that can be hard for anyone to think of.
Yeah, I think they talk about how do you eat an elephant one bite at a
Mhm.
time. That always
Exactly.
comes to mind. Even as I'm going on this journey, I'm not always making it about cancer, but just saying, like, when
No, it's
something's
okay.
so huge and
Mhm.
it's like I have to break it down into these little chunks to this day by day by day.
Mhm.
But I think that with weight, it's just so I understand what you mean about the perfection
Mm.
and about wanting that somehow that means that there's failure and that the failure can't be somehow undone by just continuing with your habits, because it makes it less about the health and the habits and more about enough that I can specifically remember years ago being so focused on getting to a certain number by a certain time,
Mhm.
and I was obsessed, and now I'm nowhere near that number. I
Mhm.
it but it was very important to me at that time,
Mhm.
and the things that I was to do to try to hit it, what we have to reframe as we go through this journey. What do we have to reframe to make ourselves focus so on, like you said, the habit. So
You still there? Yeah, going in and out a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we got you back. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I think I can see you now. You know
okay.
how it is with the internet.
I know that's the modern day we live in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it's such a difficult thing to reframe and to say something that was important to me or a goal that was important to me. If I'm not getting there, if I'm not successful in just keeping my eye on that prize, how can I reframe in a way that makes me successful? How can I change my thought pattern or change the way I get to that goal? Um, to make sure that I'm doing something, that I'm actively moving towards something, but not just focusing on a goal and just saying, "Oh, I didn't make it. Let me just give up, or let me just keep hoping that I'll get there."
Yeah. It's what you've always said. I really love that you've always focused, at least talked about the habits and what
Mhm.
are the things that we are doing that's sustainable, because the numbers will eventually come.
Mhm.
They will eventually come. whether you get to goal or not, all of that will work itself out. If the habits that you're doing are sustainable, the body has to follow at some point. And
Yeah.
I think that that's been my biggest lesson, even since I've changed really drastically my habits, because it's aligned with something that I feel like I understand that I have to do for the rest of my life. So how do I find a way to make it fun? Because this can't just be, in my situation, it can't just be for a month. It
Yeah.
can't just be for 2 months. This has to be forever.
Yeah.
And embracing that.
And I think about what you're saying. Like, do you think some of it has to do with age? Like, I think about my 20s and also being, I'm an only child and also being single. Like, sometimes it's all about you. And it's like, yes, I have desires for my future, for a future family, all those things. But in the moment, it's like, okay, I only have me to worry about. Let me get this. Let me focus on this. Do you find that as you've matured, as you've developed in your family, sometimes that makes it easier to focus on your why or easier to focus on those healthy habits?
I think sometimes. I think that because I can't say that for me, it sounds like it should be, but I've been married now for almost 5 years and I have an almost 2-year-old. And that's not what it took for me to get myself into like, let's do this. Because I still think that other people, external motivation is one thing, but there has to be something here. Like for me, just my life and wanting to live became like, that was threatened with the diagnosis, where it's like, okay, if I don't get this together, I could be really putting and limiting my time here on this earth. And that's just not okay with me. I wanted my husband to be enough. I wanted my son to be enough, but sometimes that versus the cookie or that versus the thing, it didn't hold me. And that's sad to say, because for some it's like, oh no, I'll do anything for my family. And it's like, I will, but just not give up the cookie today, because I didn't really think that that was having an impact. I would minimize my actions to not make me have to give up the thing.
Do you think, though, I feel like some of that does have to do with youth. And I say youth, we're in our 30s. I feel like me in my 30s, you prior to the diagnosis in your 30s, I think sometimes we don't think about the long-term consequences. Not to say that there aren't people in their 20s and 30s who are super focused on their health, but I think sometimes if you've already established these habits of unhealthy eating, you don't always focus as much on your why as strongly, because it's like, I have time.
That was what I was going to say. I think that that's the biggest deceiver. That's the biggest thing that I've learned is it is time waits for no one, and you are not guaranteed. Because I've said that before this diagnosis, like, you're not guaranteed tomorrow, all the cliche, we know it. And you're like, that's true, but I'm only 30. I'm only 38, so I'm good. And then when something happens and it's like, oh no, sincerely, you're not guaranteed tomorrow. You're not special. The people that you see who die early, who get in car accidents and things that you don't, when that becomes like in your face, it does make you say, okay, this is really true, because we are in a bubble until something like that happens. And there's some who are able to extricate themselves from that and to be really like the ones who are really super focused on their health. But I also wonder, did they have a family member who may have been ill?
Right.
Did they have another motivator that made them see it early too? Because sometimes it's that tension that really does get you focused, that it's really not about just the number on the scale. It's health.
That's what I would say. Like, how can we bag up or keep that as our why close by without being morbid, without saying, I'm walking around thinking, oh, I could die. This could be the day. Like, how do we, I know this might be a rhetorical question, because we don't necessarily have the answers, but there's got to be a way to keep that close by without depressing ourselves, without having this outlook of anything could happen. I could, walk over here and something could follow me. How can I bottle that up and keep that close by when I'm reaching for a cupcake instead of an apple?
You know what I think, Rikki, maybe because I'm into this a little bit, I feel like if it's not because something life altering happen. I think
Mhm.
it's the feeling that you feel of aliveness when you are making the
Mhm.
choices. Like if you can give yourself, this is just my thought, like if we
Yeah.
give ourselves the time to feel the effects of the good things,
Mhm.
that becomes addictive. You're like, I can breathe really well. I have stamina. I am glowing. I have my skin. I'm seeing all of these. My resting heart rate, my Apple Watch keeps giving me these alerts. And they're like, your heart rate has dropped again in a good way. Like your
Wow.
resting heart rate in the past month has gone down like 10 points. Like they're
Oh
like, this
my
is
goodness.
so those are the things that I would think
Yeah.
you become addicted to, or the things that you're unwilling to give up and go back to
Mhm.
when you, but the harder part is giving yourself the time to start to see those results,
Yeah.
you know?
And I think that's the part, is pushing past those initial cravings. I know you were there. You were there where I am, where I've been stuck, honestly, at the point where I have strong cravings for unhealthy food, because this is for me, and I know for you too. We were talking about being 10-year-olds hiding food under our bed, or just having McDonald's as a reward, breaking these years and decades long habits,
Yeah.
getting past those humps so you can feel that reinforcement. It's not something that's just, for me, been cold turkey, but for
Yeah.
you, when your why was that strong, it kind of was for you.
I will say that's one thing. If I have to give cancer anything, which I
Mm,
don't really want to give it, but if I have to, I would say that that's one thing that it has brought for me is
mhm,
it's like I told you all before, it's like the inability to say no or to
mhm,
make those choices just faded away
mhm,
because my life and literally me saving my life became
mm,
more important. But I can also relate to when I didn't have that strong of a why.
yeah.
And when I didn't have that, and it was just 4.5 weeks ago.
Mhm,
So my prayer is more so, like you said, trying to figure out how do you get there and,
mhm,
getting past those earlier pieces
mhm,
so that you can get there without it having to be, sorry, ma'am, here's
mm,
this really bad news.
yeah. Because we've had all these conversations, and it's coming back to that. But the no, like that, it comes down to saying no more than I'm saying yes. And I'm sure people can relate to this. There might be days where you have to say no 20 times, but maybe you start off with saying no 15 times and then you get to the 20 maybe the next day. But I more often than not, I think it's saying no, um, as many times as you can, and finding something different,
I think
going
it's
getting
proving
that
to
water.
yourself that you can. And I
Yes.
think that giving yourselves, what I'm finding is giving myself those small wins, like you're saying, they
Mhm.
compound. And
Yes.
that's what I'm hoping to do in my cancer journey, which is I feel very much like you feel right now with maybe how you're looking at your weight. That's
Mhm.
how I feel about this journey that's ahead of me. It just feels so daunting. Like it's just like, oh, how am I going to do this? It just, I feel like it's just going to be too much, but it's like, I don't have to do all of this.
Mhm.
All I have to do is show up tomorrow for this
Mhm.
next thing. All
Yeah.
you have to do is whatever you do for the next meal. And I'm not planning anything else. I don't have any other thoughts about
Mhm.
what I'm going to be doing in July, or I have no thoughts. I'm
Yeah.
here. And
One
anyone
step
who
at a
tries to
time.
take you out of it, it's not about even getting to Saturday. For we're
Mhm.
Saturday weighers, it's like, I don't have to just get to Saturday. No, today is Monday or whatever day it is. I just
Mhm.
have to get to the next meal.
Yeah. I have to get through this decision, this
That's all I got.
offer to have pizza. Yes or no. That's all. I don't care that there might be 20 other offers later. Let me get through this one.
Yeah, and Will Smith said it best. I mean, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about Will Smith right now, but
Go
but one
ahead.
of the things he said is that his father asked him to build a wall, and
Mm.
it was a beautiful story where he said his father asked him to build a wall. He said, "I'm a child. I don't really know how you want me to build a wall." He said,
Mhm.
"Do you see that brick over there?" He said,
Mhm.
"Take that brick and put it over next to the other brick."
Mhm.
And he said, "Now put down some whatever stuff." And he said, "Now go get another brick and put it next to the other brick. Now go get
Mhm.
another one." And he said, basically, brick by brick, he built a wall. And he
Wow.
said, that's what I mean and he said his father instilling that in him helped him
Mhm.
get to where he was, which was, it's not
Hmm.
about all of it. It's about, I
Mhm.
just needed to get the next brick and put the
Yeah,
next brick down. And
that's
I'm trying to take that with me as I go to where I'm headed to. So maybe
mhm.
that's the thing that we need to remember. It's not
Yeah.
about a weight goal. We're not trying to get to 150. I'm
Mhm.
just trying to get to the next meal.
Yeah.
That's it.
Next best choice.
This is a good
I love that.
discussion.
Yeah, I
Yay.
think that was a great chat, and we went in a very different direction from where we
Well,
started, but
kinda, but still, it's not the whole journey. It's
yes.
the little things.
Yes.
And we'd love to hear your feedback, guys. Just remember, if you all want to reach out to us, you've heard us talk about our Facebook group. You can always find us, search Facebook for Real WW Talk. We're also on Instagram,
Mhm.
same name, Real WW Talk, YouTube. We've
Mhm.
made it very easy. And then obviously the podcast. We are so happy to have so many people who share and give their feedback. The community has really just grown in the
Mhm.
past year or so. And so if you're looking for that support, we're here. We're also on Connect. You can find us. You'll find all of our information in the show notes. But I just wanted to
Yes.
remind you that you can reach us there.
Yes, and feel free to send us an email personally as well. You can just email us at realwwtalk@gmail.com.
Yep.
All right.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.